All right, guys, this is the last reading video that I'm going to make for the year, which is kind of sad when you think about it. So, that being said, I'll be reading Romeo and Juliet, Act 5, and I have another little joke for you because I know you love them so much, right? So, are you ready? What did the ocean say to the other ocean? So, again, the joke is what did the ocean say to the other ocean? Nothing. They just waved. All right, so the code today is wave. Or waved in the past tense. All right, are you guys ready? We are going to have quite a lot going on. So I love about this kind of version of the textbook is it kind of reminds you of what's happening. So again, we have to prevent her marriage to Paris, Juliet has taken the friar's potion. Okay. That's supposed to make it appear that she's kind of dead, though she will not be dead. So then as Act 4 is going to kind of come about, we are going to see her family's going to plan her funeral. Meanwhile, the friar has to send a message to Romeo in Mantua, where he's living in exile, to let him know what's going on so he can be there when she wakes up because she's going to be buried in the tomb. And again, this says, as you read Act 5, consider how much of the friar's plan is built on somewhat rickety foundations. So, like, were there things that he should have thought about a little bit better? All right, so this is scene one. This is in Mantua, a street. That is where Romeo is exiled. So Romeo does not know yet what happened to Juliet. All right, so enter Romeo. If I may trust the flattering truth asleep, my dream perceives some joyful news at hand. My bosom lord sits lightly in his throne, and all this day an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead. Strange dream that gave a dead man leaves to think, and breathed such life with kisses in my lips. And so he's saying, well, like in my sleep, I had this like pleasing dream where I actually thought I was dead. Which shows how miserable he is here because he says that's pleasing. And then it's in my dream, I could actually saw my beautiful lady. And even though I was dead, I could think, which can't happen, is what he says here. And she gave me a kiss on my lips. So he has a strange dream that said that, he got a kiss from his lady and that I revived was an empire. Ah, me, how sweet is love itself possessed, with but love's shadows are so rich in joy. So she's just saying how much in love he is. And then he had this awful but wonderful dream, he thinks. So as he's doing this, enter Romeo's man, Balthasar, who's kind of like his friend / kind of servant. So he goes, news from Verona. How now, Balthasar? Does thou not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How fares my Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she is well. So he wants to know what's going on. Balthasar is giving him news from town. So again, nothing can be bad as long as my lady is well. So Balthasar comes, and man is also who he is, and he says, that is, she is well, and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument, and her immortal part with angels live. I saw her lay down in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it you. Oh, pardon me for bringing these ill news, since you did leave it for my officer. So he said basically that she's dead and with the angels, and now she's in her family's vault. And even so, that I defy you, stars. Thou knowest my lodging. Give me some ink and paper and hire post horses. I will hence tonight. So he's saying that I'm going to defy you, fate, and I'm going to do something and get me some paper. So then Balthasar says, I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild, and you do import some misadventure. So he's saying that you seem very crazy right now, and you might do something foolish. Take a moment. So Romeo says, tush, thou art deceived. Leave me and do this thing I bid thee do. Hast thou no letters to me from the friar? So he goes, do you have any letters for me from the friar? Is he letting me know? Because he's supposed to be letting him know what's going on in these situations. No, my good lord. So notice here, Romeo has not received any letters. That's going to be an issue, right? No matter, get thee gone, and hire thy horses. I'll be with thee tonight. And then exit Balthasar. Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let's see for means, O mischief thou art swift, to enter in the thoughts of desperate men. I do remember an apothecary. Hold on. Okay. And hereabouts a dwell which late I noted, and tattered weeds with overwhelming brose. culling of simples. Meagre's were his looks, sharp misery had worn him to the bone, and in his needy shop a tortoise hung, an alligator stuffed in other skins, ill-shaped fishes, and above his shelves, beggarly account of empty boxes, green earthen pots, bladders, and musty seeds, remnants of pack thread, and old cakes of roses were thinly scattered to make up a show. Noting this penetrate to myself, I said. So he talks about all of a sudden he's going to kind of he's going to do something drastic, and he says he will be with Juliet tonight. And we'll see what that means. And he says that he is desperate. So he's going to see an apothecary. An apothecary at the time is one who prepares and sells drugs and medicines. And he talks about how he saw this very poor apothecary that was very needy and didn't have much. So let's see how that kind of fits into his plans. So noting that penury to myself, so he said, I noticed this poverty, and if a man did need a poison now, whose sale is present death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wretch, would sell it to him. Oh, the same thought did but forerun my need, and the same needy man must sell it to me. As I remember, this should be the house. Being holiday, the beggar's shop is shut. Wait, ho, apothecary. So he says that he knows that this person is so poor that maybe he would sell him poison. And it's on a holiday, but he's still going to try to get a hold of this apothecary. So here he's at the apothecary's house here in Mantua. And so he says, who calls so loud? Come hither, man. I see that thou art poor. Hold there is 40 ducats. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear. Sorry, guys. My kids add a little background noise to Romeo and Juliet. Let me start from this part again. Come hither, man. I see that thou art poor. Hold there is 40 ducats. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, that the life-wearing taker may fall dead, and that this trunk may be discharged to breath as violently as hasty power fire does her hurry from the fatal cannon's womb. So he says he's giving him like 40 ducats, it's like money, so 40 gold coins, and this apothecary is very poor, to give him fast-acting poison that could just kill him almost like a gunshot, like instantly, is what he's wanting. And so the apothecary says, such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is deaf to any that utters them. So he says, I do have those, but I am not allowed. It's illegal for me to sell them. So Romeo says, art thou so bare and full of wretchedness and fearest to die? Famine in thy cheeks, need and oppression starveth in thy eyes, contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back. The world is not thy friend, not the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be poor, but break it and take this. So he says, are you afraid to die? You looked like you were starving to death. You're so poor. So, and yes, you're breaking a law, but if you don't take my money, you could die because you're so hungry. The law's not helping you out with this. And so the apothecary says, my poverty, but not my will consent. So he's saying, I do agree to do this, but just because I'm so poor, I need it. I don't necessarily think it's a good idea. And he says, I pay thy poverty and not thy will. So he's trying to make him not feel guilty and says, I know that you don't want to do this, but you need it for your poverty. So the apothecary says, put this in liquid thing, you will, and drink it off. And if you have the strength of 20 men, it should kill you straight. So it's a very powerful poison. There is thy gold, worse poison to men's soul, doing more murder in this lonesome world than these compounds that thou may not sell. I sell thee poison, thou sold me none. Farewell, buy food and get thyself in flesh. Come cordial, not poison, go with me to Juliet's grave, for there must I use thee. So Romeo wants to use this poison here to kill himself. He is very desperate, and he feels like this is the only option for him, unfortunately. So here we are seeing what's going on with Friar and Florence, because, as we know, Romeo never received the letter that he was supposed to. So enter Friar John, calling Friar Lawrence. So here we have Friar John. This will help you with one of your questions. So Friar John says, Holy Frisian Friar, brother, ho. So they're greeting each other. He says, this shall be the same voice of Friar John. Welcome from Mantua. What says Romeo? Or if his mind be writ, give me his letter. So Friar Lawrence gave the letter to Friar John to give to Romeo about the plan. And so Friar Lawrence is like, oh, you're back from Mantua already? What was Romeo's response? And so Friar John says, going to find a barefoot brother out. So he said, I was going to find another friar out. One of our order to associate me here in the city visiting the sick. So he's finding one of his other friends to go with him that was visiting the sick. And finding him, the searchers of the town, suspecting that we were both in the house, where the infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors and would not let us forth, so that my speed to Mantua there was stayed. So he was going to take the letter to Romeo, but he was going to get another friar to go with him. This is Friar John getting someone else as well. And he found his other friar, but the friar was helping out a house that was sick at the time with plague. So they quarantined them in the house, so they were not allowed to leave. And because of this, they were also not allowed to take the letter because people would be afraid it was infectious. So the letter never got to Romeo. He said, "Who bare my letter then to Romeo?" And he said, "I could not send it here again, nor get a messenger to bring it. So fearful were they of infection. So the letter could not go. No one would touch it. They thought it was dirty." So Friar Lawrence goes, "Unhappy fortune, by my brotherhood, that letter was not nice, but full of charge, of dearest import, and the neglecting it may do more danger. Friar Lawrence, go hence, give me an iron crow, and bring it straight upon thy cell." So he says, like, that letter wasn't just like a nice letter greeting to Wesley. Shh. That wasn't just a nice letter. That was a very important letter. He said, "Brother, I'll go and bring it to thee." So he says, "Now must I to the monument alone. Within 3 hours will fair Juliet's wake. She'll bestrew me much that Romeo hath had no notice of these accidents. But I will write again to Mantua." Sorry, I apologize. My son was trying to be a, I don't know, stuntman here. You all right there, buddy? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so he says, "Brother, go, and I'll bring it to thee. Now must I take the monument alone. Within 3 hours will fair Juliet wake. She'll bestrew me much that Romeo hath had no notice of these accidents." So he goes, "Oh gosh, Juliet's going to wake up, and Romeo's not going to be there, and she's going to be upset. But I will write again to Mantua and keep her at my cell till Romeo comes. Poor living corpse, closed in a dead man's tomb." So he's saying, well, I'll get her out of there and keep her with me until we can get to Romeo. Wesley, stop. Okay, so a churchyard and its monument belonging to the Capulets. So enter Paris and his page with flowers and sweet water. Oh, how sweet. "Give me thy torch, boy, hence, and stand aloof. You put it out, for I have not been seen. Under yon ye trees lay there all along, holding thy ear close to the hollow ground. So shall be no foot upon the churchyard tread. Being loose and firm with digging up of graves, be thou shall hear it. Whistle then to me, a signal that thou hearest. Something approach. Give me these flowers. Do as I bid thee go." So Paris, as we just this, is going to put flowers on Juliet's grave. "I'm afraid to stand alone here in the churchyard, yet I will still venture it." She says, "Sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed I strew. Oh, woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, with which sweet water nightly I will do. Of wanting that with tears distilled by moans, that obscurities, for that thy will keep. Nightly shall be strewn thy grave and weep. That boy gave warning something does approach. With cursed foot wanders this way tonight, to cross my obscurities and true love's right. With what a torch muffle me night a while." So here he's saying that he is going to, how unfortunate is it that his sweet bride died this way, and that he's going to go every night and put flowers on her grave. But he hears a sound, and he wants to know what is going on in the sound. So while Paris is doing this, lo and behold, enter Romeo and Balthazar with a torch, a mattock, and a crow of iron. So they have like a pickaxe and a crowbar here. He said, "Give me the mattock and the wrenching iron." Not right now, buddy. Okay. "Hold, take this letter early in the morning. See thou deliver it to my lord." Sorry. "Give me that mattock and the wrenching iron." So that is the pickaxe and the crowbar. "Hold, take this letter early in the morning. See thou deliver it to my lord and father. Give me thy light. Upon thy life I charge thee. Whatever thou hearest or seek, stand all aloof, and do not interrupt me in my course. Why I descend in the bed of death, it is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore hence be gone. Be if thou jealous, does return to pry, and what I father shall intend to do. By heaven, I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew the hungry churchyard with thy limbs. This time with my intents are savage and wild, more fierce and more inexorable far than empty tigers at the roaring sea." So he's breaking into the tomb. He has this plan. He has a letter that he wants to deliver. He wants Balthazar, the man, to deliver to his father. And he says, "Do not bother me when I go in here. I'm going to see my lady's face. I want to see if she has a ring." That's her wedding ring that he's going to see. And so then as he says this, or I think he's giving her a wedding ring back too. As he says this as well, He says that if he were to bother him, Balthazar, during this, he is not in his right mind and he's more fierce than a hungry tiger and is literally threatening him. So Balthazar said, I will be gone and not trouble ye. And he says, so shall thou show me friendship, take thou that live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow. So he goes, thank you for proving your friendship by doing this. Now Balthazar, in his aside, says this, for all the time I'll hide me hereabout. He looks, I fear, and his attends, I doubt. So he goes, okay, I'm still going to just hide because I'm nervous about what Romeo may do. So Romeo says, thou detestable maul, thou womb of death, gorge thy dearest morsel of thy earth. Thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I crime thee with more food. So he's talking to Death, and he says how awful Death is, and he's kind of describing it's like having a stomach. And he's saying, you like took my Juliet and ate her, and now I'm going to give you more food by killing myself, unfortunately. So Romeo opens the tomb, and Paris is still here, so we'll see what happens. So Paris goes, this is the banished haughty Montague that murdered my love's cousin, with which grief is supposed to be the fair creature died. So he goes, oh, it's that arrogant Montague who killed Tybalt, and that's why Juliet died of heart sickness here and grief. So he says, and here is the dead to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. Stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Condemned villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die. So he thinks he's doing right by Juliet. He thinks that Romeo is doing something awful. And so he's saying that he's going to arrest him and that he should die. So Romeo says, I must indeed, and therefore come I hither. Good gentle youth, tempt not a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. So he says, listen, I don't know who you are, young man, but I'm desperate. Leave me be. Think upon thee gone. Let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth. Put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. Oh, be gone. By heaven, I love thee better than myself, for I come hither armed against myself. Stay not and be gone. Live and hereafter say, a man's mercy bids thee run away. So he says, I'm not in my right mind. Leave me alone. And so Paris says, I do defy thy conjurations. So he's saying, no, I'm not going to listen to you. And apprehend thee for a felon. He says, I'm going to basically arrest you. So Romeo says, will thou provoke me? Then have at it, thee boy. So they fight. So a page goes, Lord, they fight. I will call thee, get watch. And then exits because Paris falls. So unfortunately, Paris thought he was stopping Romeo from maybe doing something awful to like the bodies. And Romeo is desperate to kill himself and be with Juliet. And so he kills Paris too. Oh, I'm slain. If thou be merciful, open the tomb and lay me with Juliet. And so then Romeo responds, so he wants to be laid with Juliet. And faith I will, let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble county Paris. What said thy man when my betossed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me that Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so, or did I dream it so? Or am I mad hearing him talk of Juliet to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in such sour misfortune's book. I bury thee in a triumphant grave. A grave? No, a lantern, slaughtered youth, for here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes the vault a feasting presence full of light. So he realizes that, oh gosh, this is County Paris. Maybe that's why he wanted to be near Juliet. And he goes, oh, I think I heard something about Paris wanting to marry her. So he kind of thinks of that, but then he goes in there and he sees kind of that he's in the grave with Juliet. And her beauty is going to kind of start to distract him even in death. So he says, death, lie thou there, let it by a dead man's intern. So he's going to kind of keep him there. So he lays him in the tomb. How oft when men are at the point of death, how they even at mercy, which the keepers call lightning before death. Oh, how may I call this lightning death? Oh, my love, my wife, death that have sucked the honey of thy breath has no power yet upon thy beauty that are not conquered. Beauty is thine yet, as crimson thy lips and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flags does not advance thee. Tybalt lies there, though, in thy bloody sheet. Oh, what favor can I do to thee? Then with thy hand that cut its youth in twain, to sunder thee, and that with thy own enemy. Forgive me, O cousin. O dear Juliet, why are there yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and from the lean abhorred monster keeps thee here in dark to be his Panamore? For fear of that I will not stay with thee, and never from this pallet of dim night depart again. Here will I remain with worms, what are thy chambermaids. Oh, here will I sit upon my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inconspicuous stars. From this world-wearied flesh, eyes look upon your last, arms take your last embrace, and lips, oh, you the doors of breath, seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. And so here he just talks about kind of being at death's fate and about how beautiful Juliet is and how she still lightens up everything and how lovely she is. And he feels like he even still sees some crimson in her cheeks. But think about it, she should be waking up soon too. So that could be as well. But yes, he is so in love with her and thinks that she's beautiful. So he still talks about death and how he wants to be with Juliet forever, and how this would kind of help him do that. And so he's kind of like hugging her for the last time. And he even wants to be forgiven what happened with Tybalt. So he says here, gives her like a kiss and whatnot. So he says, come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on. A dashing rock, thy seasick, weary bark, here's to my love. So he drinks the poison. O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die. So he unfortunately, with this poison, kills himself. And he falls. Then enters Friar Lawrence with lanthorn, crow, and spade. St. Francis be my speed. How oft tonight have my old feet stumbled at graves. Who's this? Balthazar. Here's one, a friend, and one that knows you well. So Friar Lawrence is coming up, and he sees Balthazar, and so he wants to know who he is. And he said, there's a friend in there, one that you know well. And he said, bliss be upon you. Tell you, my good friend, what torch is yon that vainly lends his light to grub and eyeless galls, as I discern, it burneth in the Capul's monument. He goes, so why are you here, and why is there a light in the Capulet's monument that should be dark? He says, it does so, holy sir. There's my master, one that you love. So he says, well, the person, my master is there, and that's somebody that you know and love too. So he said, who is it? And Balthazar says, Romeo. And then Friar Lawrence says, how long has he been there? Full half an hour. Go with me to the vaults. I dare not, sir. My master knows that I'm not gone hence, and fearfully did menace me with death if I stay not to look on his intents. So that I can't go. He threatened me with death if I go. And he said, stay then, I'll go alone. Fear comes upon me. Oh, I must do such an unthrifty thing. So Friar Lawrence is running. He's running to the vault because he's afraid of what might happen. He said, stay there, I've gone alone. Fear comes upon me. Oh, sorry, I read that. I must do some unthrifty thing. As I did sleep under this yew tree here, I jumped to my master in another thought, and that my master slew him. So he had a dream that somebody was killed. And so the friar goes, Romeo, alack, alack, what blood is this which stains the stony entrance to the sepulchre? What means these masterless and gory swords to lie discolored by this place of peace? Romeo, oh hail, who else? What, Paris too? And steeped in blood, what an unkind hour is this guilty of this lamentable chance that lady stirs. So he sees that there's blood, and then he's at the entrance of the tomb, and then he sees that Paris has died, and then he hears Juliet stirring, and Romeo has died as well. He said, oh, comfortable. And so Juliet rises, not knowing what's going on at all. Yeah, I know. Pretty rough. And she says, oh, comfortable, friar. Where's my lord? I do remember well where I should be. And here I am. Where's my Romeo? So she's waking up and she's going, oh, friar, where's Romeo? He should be here. That was our plan. And so he says, I hear some contagion, lady. Come from thy nest. A death contagion, unnatural sleep. So he's saying we need to leave. He said, a greater power that we can contradict hath thwarted our intents, and come away. Thy husband is thy bosom, there lies dead, and Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Say not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet. I dare not no longer stay. So he says they're basically at the mercy of something greater power than their plan. So kind of fate stepped in and got in the way of their plan. And so unfortunately, Paris and Romeo is dead. So he wants to take Juliet to a nunnery to keep her safe. And she says, go, get thee hence, for I'll not go away. So she says, leave, I'm not leaving, or go, I'm not leaving. And she, so the friar exits, and she says, what's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand? Poison, I see has been his timeless end. Oh, sure, drink all, and left no friendly drop. So she sees Romeo's dead, and she sees the poison, and there's no drop there. Sorry, apparently my dogs thought Romeo and Juliet would help them in an epic battle between German Shepherd and Situ. I don't know. Shh. Out. Sorry about that. Okay, so, oh, churl, drink all and left no friendly drop to help me after. I will kiss thy lips. Haply some poison yet does hang on to make me die with a restorative. So she kisses him. And notice this is kind of like the foreshadowing in his dream that he thought he was dead and that she kissed him. Thy lips are warm. So she tried to kiss him to get into the poison, but that's not going to happen. So then there's a chief watchman. Lead, boy, which way? So she hears noise. Yeah, noise. Then I'll be brief. Oh, happy dagger. So she finds his knife, his convenient dagger. That is a shield, there rest and let me die. So she stabs herself and falls. So enters the Paris boy and watch. This is the place there where the torch does burn. So there's people coming now because, this is a tomb and there's people that are all there, which is abnormal. Thy ground is bloody. Search about the churchyard. Go get some of you, wherever you find detain, and then exit some of the watch. Pitiful sight, here lies the county slain, and Juliet bleeding, warm and newly dead, who have laid this 2 days buried. Go tell the prince, run to the Capulets, raise up the Montague, some other search. So you see that Juliet's bleeding, and she should have already been dead for 2 days, so that's showing that there's a problem. So they're getting the Capulets and the Montagues to see what's going on. They see that the ground is bloody. We see the ground where there's woes do lie, but the true ground of these piteous woes we can stand without circumstances to cry. So they're trying to see what's going on. They see these dead bodies and they're not sure. So enter some of the watchmen with Romeo's man, Balthazar. Here's Romeo's man. We found him here in the churchyard. Hold him in here until the prince come hither. So then enters Friar Lawrence and another watchman. Here's a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took the mattocks. Here's a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took the mattock and the spade from him as he was coming from the churchyard side. So they saw Friar Lawrence, and he has the crowbar and the pickaxe, and he's coming. So the chief watchman says, a great suspicion. Stay the friar too. So they're keeping the friar there because they're like, well, that's really suspicious. What's going on? So enter the prince in attendance. What misadventure is up so early that calls our person from our morning rest? So enter Capulet and his wife. What should it be that is so shrieked abroad? And so Lord Capulet and Lady Capulet are coming as this is happening, and so is the prince. Oh, so the people in the street cry, Romeo, some Juliet, and some Paris, and all run with open outcry to our monument. So she's going, what's going on? People are calling Romeo, people are calling Paris, people are calling Juliet, and they're all running to her too. And the prince goes, what fear is this which startles in your ears? And the chief watchman, so we had watchmen are like, please, sorry, I should have said that. Sovereign here lies, the county Paris slain. So Paris was murdered. And Romeo is dead, and Juliet dead before, warm and newly killed. So Paris is killed, Romeo is dead, and now Juliet is dead as well. Search, seek, and know how these foul murders come. So the prince wants to know what is going on. Here's a friar, and slaughtered Romeo's man with instruments upon them fit to open these dead man's tombs. So here we see that the friar Lawrence is there with the dead man's tombs. Oh heavens, oh wife, look how our daughter bleeds. This dagger hath mistaken, for lo, his house is empty on the back of Montague, and it's misheathed in my daughter's bosom. So they're shocked. Their daughter that they thought was dead now is bleeding, so she died now, and so they're saying it's the Montague's fault. And Lady Capulet says, oh me, the sight of death is a bell that warns my old age to spelter. And she's saying she can't take it. Now Lord Montague comes as well, so enter Montague and others. Come, Montague, for thou art up early to see thy son, and I are more early down. So they're saying, well, what are you doing up here so early, Lord Montague? They said, alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight. Grief of my son's exile has stopped her breath. What further woes conspires against mine age? So he says, I'm awake because my wife was so upset and sad about Romeo being exiled that she is now dead. What else could go wrong? And the prince says, look, and thou shalt see. O thou untaught, what manners is this, to press before that father to a grave? So he sees that it's Romeo, and he goes, this is more than I can take. So the prince says, seal up the mount of an outrage for a while, till we can clear these ambiguities. So they're wanting to leave everything alone until they can figure out what's going on. And know their spring, their head, and their true descent, and then will I be general of your woes, and lead you even to death. Meantime forbear, and let mischance be slave to patience. Bring forth the parties to suspicion. So the prince is trying to figure out what's going on. So the friar Lawrence comes and says, I'm the greatest, able to do the least, yet most suspected at this time and place, does makes against me of this dire for murder. And here I stand both to impeach and purge, myself condemned and myself excuse. So he's saying, I'm under the most suspicion because I'm here at this time, and I will share. So the prince says, then say it at once what thou does know in this. So he says, I will be brief, for my short date of breath, it is not as long as a tedious tale. Romeo there dead was husband to that Juliet. So here he's going to let everybody know what's going on. So Romeo and Juliet's married. He's letting all their family know, and they did not know this. And there she is dead, that Romeo's faithful wife. And so she was a faithful wife. I married them, and their stolen marriage day was Tybalt's doomsday, whose untimely death banished the newly made bridegroom for the city. So he said, I married them, And on the day of their marriage, Tybalt was killed, and now the new groom was banished. So that caused obviously an issue. For whom and not for Tybalt, Juliet pined. So that's who Juliet was crying after, not for Tybalt, but for Romeo. You, to remove the siege of grief from her, betrothed and would have married her perforce to County Paris. So you guys didn't know that she was crying for Tybalt, so you decided to marry her to County Paris. Then comes she to me, and with her wild looks bid me to devise some mean, to rid her from the second marriage, or myself there she would kill herself. Then I gave her, so tutored by my art, a sleeping potion, which took so effect. So he said she was so desperate not to be in a second marriage, and she threatened to kill herself, that I was able to give her a potion, which is something that we can do at this time, to make her go to sleep. A sleeping potion which took so effect as I intended, for it wrought on her the form of death. It was just to make it seem like she was dead. Meanwhile, I writ to Romeo that he should come hither as the dire night, to help and to take from her borrowed grave, being the time the potion's force should cease. But he should bore my letter. Friar John was stayed by accident, and yesternight returned my letter back. Then all alone, at the prefect's hour of her waking, come I to take her from this kindred vault, and meaning to keep her closely at my cell, till I can conveniently send to Romeo. But when I came, some minute ere the time of her awakening, here untimely lay that noble Paris and true Romeo dead. So he said he was having Romeo be there when she woke up. But unfortunately, that letter did not go to Romeo. So the friar was planning on being there when she woke up. But unfortunately, when he got there, he saw that now noble Paris and Romeo were dead. She wakes, and I entreated her to come forth and bear the work of heaven with patience. But then a noise did scare me from the tomb, and she, too desperate, would not go with me, but as it seemed, did violence on herself. And this I know, when into the marriage her nurse is privy, and is aught in this miscarried by my fault. Let my old life be sacrificed an hour before this time unto the rigor of severest law. And so he says, he was going to still try to comfort Juliet, but unfortunately he heard a noise, and then she unfortunately killed herself. And he says, with his story too, the nurse knows of their marriage and whatnot as well. So the prince says, we still have known thee for a holy man. Where's Romeo's man? What can he say to this? So they said, well, we know that you're a holy man, so we can kind of take your word for it, but what does Romeo's man say? And so Balthasar said, I brought my master's news of Juliet's death, and then in post he came from Mantua to the same place, to the same monument, to the letter he early bid me give his father, and threatened me with death, going to the vault, if I departed not and left him there. Give me the letter, I will look on it. Where is the county's page that raised his watch? Sirrah, what made your master in this place? The boy said, so they want to know what happened with Paris. He said he came with flowers to strew his lady's grave, and bid me stand aloof, so I did. Anon come with light to open the tomb, and by my master drew on him, and then I ran away to watch. This letter does good, the friar's words, so the prince read the letter, their course of love, the tidings of her death, and here he writes that he did buy a poison of a poor apothecary, and therewithal came to this vault to die and lie with Juliet. So everything is panning out and is true. And the letter Romeo wrote his father is saying that he went to apothecary, he loved Juliet, and he wanted to kill himself. So he said, come to the vault to die and lie with Juliet. Where are these enemies? Capulet, Montague. See what a scourge is laid upon your hate. So now he's wanting to get both families, and he wants them to see what their hate has caused. The heavens find means to kill your joys of love. And have I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen, and all are punished. So he said, look what happens with hate. Okay? Your greatest joys are killed because of your hate. This and love is going to fix this, but now everybody has to deal with this. Not only is Romeo dead, Juliet dead, so like the joys of both families, but even some of his family members, Mercutio and Paris, are dead. So Capulet says, O brother Montague, give me thy hand. This is my daughter's juncture, for no more can I demand. So Lord Capulet realizes that he wants peace. And so to respect his daughter, this is her wedding gift. He wants peace with Lord Montague, even though they've had this conflict for years. And Montague says, but I can give thee more, for I'll raise her statue in pure gold. That whiles Verona by that name is known, there shall be a figure at that rage be set, as that of true and faithful Juliet. So Montague says, and I will give you a gift, and I will raise a pure gold statue that's beautiful and shows like honor to your daughter. And so the Capulet says, as rich shall Romeo's by his ladies lie, poor sacrifice of our enmity. So he's saying here they lie together because of our hatred. A glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have some talks of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned, and some shall be punished. For never was a story of more woe than this of Romeo, of Juliet and her Romeo. So he's saying that sometimes with we have peace, but it's because of all this gloom. And sometimes with the sorrow and whatnot, there's still going to be consequences. Some things can be forgiven, and some things there's going to be forever. So unfortunately, now people learn of this hatred and maybe have more peace and kind of look past our differences so that we could be together and work through our conflicts so we don't die in hate. So there was never more a story of woe and misfortune than Juliet and her Romeo. And that's the end of our story here. So you've got your closing questions. You've got quite a lot to think about. I mean, think about the theme and how these families end up having to settle their differences and how much easier it would have been if they would have been able to make peace earlier. Think about, was Romeo acting too hastily? Which Juliet, did they think everything out? Was there ways that we could have stopped this from happening? The beginning of the story does say it's fate, but are there some lessons that we could learn from this? All right, guys, this is your last video. Thanks for hanging in there. Please email me with any questions. I miss you all terribly, and I hope I get to see you guys all next year as well. Bye bye for now.